Hello and welcome to Python Fundamentals. In this course, we learn the underpinning Python programming skills, preparing for our journey towards mastering the Django Framework and the Python programming language. This tutorial is part of a series of tutorials. You can find the link to the whole playlist in the video description. This tutorial is from our Python Programming Fundamentals for Django Developers course, which you can find and purchase on Udemy. You will find all the latest and updated tutorials, as well as resources and assessments to help accelerate your learning of the subject. The link to the course, which will always provide the best price, can be found in the video description. We describe the list as a dynamic data type in that we could add and remove and manipulate the list. So let's take a look at now how we can add elements to our list. So there are four common approaches to add elements to the list: the append, insert, extend, and list concatenation. So we'll take a look at an example of each. So let's first of all use append. Append is going to add elements to the end of the list. So let's make a shopping list, and it's going to be a list, of course. So let's go for our diet of jam, meat, and chips. Okay, so there we have our list. Right, so let's go ahead and first of all, let's just print out our list. Right, there we go. And now let's go ahead and add some more food. So to make it a little bit more interesting, let's use an input. That's going to allow users, that's going to ask users to add a new item. And we'll use a line break here, a new line, sorry. So the input will be on a new line. So if we haven't introduced input before, input is going to allow the user to actually input something into the terminal. And the N here is going to basically create a new line. Right, so what it looks like so far is this. It prints out my shopping list. It then says food name, and then there's a new line, and I can now type something and enter something into my program. And this will then be stored in this variable here as a string. So let's add, for example, milk. There we go. So what we want to do now is we want to add that to our list. So we can do that by grabbing our list, using append, and then defining what we want to add to our list, and that's going to be more food. So then we can go ahead and print off our new list. Obviously, it would have updated the original list. And there we go. So let's give this a go. So the food name I'm adding is going to be milk. And there we go. So we've now appended the list. We've added a new item to the end of the list. Now, it might be that you want to add multiple items, of course, in your case. So let's just go ahead and we'll just add some manual items here with append. So we're just going to need to separate that with commas. So milk and maybe bread. There we go. So let's just print that out, and you can see that that has failed. It takes exactly one argument and two given. So the rule here is that append will only add one or a single object. If we want to add multiple objects or elements to the end of our list, then we're going to need to utilize extend. Let's go ahead and utilize extend. So here we're going to use extend. Now extend is expecting us to use an iterable, a data type which we can iterate over. So if we were to, for example, use this type of format here, then that isn't going to work because we're adding two values here. And all those strings are iterables. We have two of them. So that isn't going to work. That's going to cause an error. So what we're going to need to do here is we're going to need to wrap this up and build a tuple or tuple. And then extend will iterate over this tuple and add these elements to the end of our original list. So be careful to ensure that you are using the parentheses here, building a tuple or a tuple here, if you're going to use extend and add multiple values elements to the end of your original list. So let's give that a go, and there we have it. If you accidentally utilize append will actually add this tuple data structure within your existing list structure. So if we were to print this out, you can see that we have the parentheses here referring to the fact that this is a different data type, a tuple or a tuple. So now we can use our prior knowledge of indexes to insert elements, data, into our list here at certain places. So we all know about indexes, having come from the previous tutorial, the fact that this list here will be indexed. So this first value here, element, will be index 0, 1, and 2. So let's utilize that to actually insert some data here. Right, so first of all, let's grab our shopping list. And this time we're going to be utilizing insert. Here we need to specify where it is we want to insert, utilizing the index, so 0, 1, or 2, which position we want to insert our data. So let's go for 0. So we're going to place this data in position 0. So everything else is going to be moving across to the right. So jam would then become index 1. And now we need to specify what we want to include. So let's go for milk. So if we print the shopping list out now, you can see that milk is now in position or index 0. So we can change that. We can put it in any position we like. The final example here is utilizing list concatenation. So this is where we can take two lists and we can place them together, put them together. So let's go ahead and just grab our shopping list. Let's build another shopping list. We'll call this list 1 and list 2. So we change these items, bread and milk, for example. So we want to combine the two lists. So I'll go ahead and just call this SH1 and SH2 to make it a little bit easier to read on the page. And we'll just go ahead now and create a new variable x equals sh1, and we'll use a concatenation plus sh2. So we're now going to concatenate these two lists together in x. So we'll go ahead now and print off x. So we'll give this a go. And there we go. So we have jam, meat, chips, bread, and milk. Now, you might be wondering, if we change the ordering around, will it first of all utilize this list and then add this list to that list? Well, the answer to that is yes. So those methods are some of the basic approaches we can utilize when adding elements to a list. So at this point, you might be starting to ask yourself a few questions. There are different variations that you might be thinking of. For example, how do you insert a list in the middle of another list, for example? We will answer that question a little bit later on in this course, but there may be other variations that you're thinking of. So it's well worth maybe exploring and spending a little bit of time here, because like I said at the start in the introduction, lists are something that you will be probably working with quite often with.